NER Class S3. The Northeastern Railway Class S3, classified B16 by the NER, was a class of Formula 60 steam locomotive designed for mixed traffic work. It was designed by Vincent Raven and introduced in 1920. The earlier members of this class were fitted with Westinghouse brakes. All of this equipment was removed during the 1930s. History. After World War I, the NER experienced an increase in both freight and passenger traffic. The Northeastern Railway's express goods services were being handled by the South Class NER B13, Zone Class NER B14, and Eastward Class NER B15 Formula 60s, which were difficult to operate and had a high coal consumption. After superheating, all three classes proved to be much more free steaming. However, the locomotives still struggled to keep to time with the increase in traffic. Meanwhile, express passenger traffic was being handled by the V and V/9 classes NER C6 and Z class NER C7 Atlantics, as well as the O class NER D20 and Rhone class NER D21 4-40s. Even though the Atlantics were doing well, the 4-40s were also starting to struggle with the increasing train loads. The solution came in 1919, when the NER chief mechanical engineer, Vincent Raven, came up with a Formula 60 that could be used on both express passenger trains and express goods trains. To provide a good balance between speed and adhesion, 5-foot 8-inch driving wheels were chosen. The NER 3-cylinder layout was also used to provide plenty of power and speed. This arrangement had been used by Raven's predecessor, Wilson Worstel, and first used on his X-Class NER TOW and Formula 60 tanks of 1909 and his Y-Class NER Asavin Pacific tanks of 1910. All three cylinders used Stephenson link motion. On the Y-Class, the cylinders drove the front driving axle. On the X-Class, meanwhile, they drove the second axle. In both cases, this provided a powerful locomotive that was also easy to maintain and repair. The boiler would also be interchangeable with the T3 class NER Q70-80s, much like the S2s, which had interchangeable wheels and cylinders with the South class and interchangeable cylinders and boilers with the T2 class NER Q60-80s. The result was the S3 class NER B16, with the first 5 members, NOS 840-844, appearing in December 1919 from Darlington Works. Post-NER 70 S3/B16 locomotives were built between 1919 and 1924. The NER began numbering this class in the range No. 840 through to No. 943, though not contiguously. Those built after late 1922 from No. 2365 onwards directly receiving the NER number. By the groupings of 1923, 38 locomotives passed to the London and Northeastern Railway NER, which built 32 more, starting with No. 2366 on 4 January 1923 and ending with NOS 1384 and 1385 on 1 January 1924. 24 of the class were built starting in the 1930s and 1940s. The original Raven design locomotives were designated Class B16/1. Bresley rebuilt 7 of the B16/1s, becoming Class B16/2. Thompson, meanwhile, ordered 17 B16/1s be rebuilt, these being designated Class B16/3. Under the NER, the B16s hardly ever left the Northeast. Their duties included fast freights, express passenger trains, excursions to Scarborough, and even football specials. During World War I and II, some of the B16s moved to the Great Central Main Line, working around Banbury and Woodford House. After World War I and II, the B16s were used on their pre-war duties but were also used as far south as Peterborough, where they substituted for a failed V-2 2-6-2 or a Thompson Bowen. The 1940s also saw the entire class receive new boilers, the last one being refitted in the late 1950s. Under the NER numbering scheme of 1946, they received numbers 1400-1468. All but one of the B16s survived into BR ownership, being renumbered 61,400-61,468. NOS 61,400-61,409 were later renumbered 61,469-61,478 to give their old numbers to the last 10 of Thompson's Bone class. Withdrawals. One locomotive, No. 925, was badly damaged along with a 4000 469 Sir Ralph Wedgwood during a German air raid on York on 29 April 1942 and was subsequently scrapped. The first official withdrawal was B16/1 60-1474 from Selby on 20 January 1958. Even the class's age and with the modernization plan already in full swing, withdrawals were rapid. The last of any variety of the B16s was B16/2 60-1435, being withdrawn on 21 July 1964. The last member to be scrapped was B16/3 60-1472 on 9 November 1964. None have been preserved. Subclasses. B16/1 introduced 1920, NER designed by Vincent Raven with inside Stephenson valve gear. B16/2 introduced 1937, NER builds of B16/1 by Nigel Gressy with Walschaerts valve gear in the outside cylinders and Gressy conjugated valve gear on the inside cylinder. B16/3 introduced 1944, NER builds of B16/1 by Edward Thompson with 3 sets of Walschaerts valve gear and left-hand drive. Accidents and incidents. On 27 June 1928, locomotive No. 2369 was involved in a head-on collision with an excursion train at County Durham whilst it was shunting a parcels train. 25 people were killed and 45 were injured. On 5 January 1946, Brownie Rail crashed. Locomotive No. 842 was hauling a freight train which became divided on the East Coast Main Line in County Durham. The train was brought to a halt at Brownie signal box, but the rear portion crashed into it. The wreckage fouled signal cables, giving a false clear to a passenger train coming in the opposite direction. This train then collided with the wreckage. 10 people were killed and 8 were severely injured.